Very much for joining us tonight. And now to the news. Washington's top diplomat Mike Pompeo said Thursday that Kim Jong-un had personally informed him that North Korea is ready to give up its nuclear arsenal. The Secretary of State is the most senior U.S. official to have met the North Korean leader and a key figure in preparations for next week's historic summit. U.S. President Trump is due to meet Kim on June 12 in Singapore for a summit called to press Pyongyang to end its nuclear and long-range missile programs.
He has indicated to me personally that he is prepared to denuclearize, that he understands that the current model doesn't work, that he's prepared to denuclearize, and that two, he understands that we can't do it the way we've done it before, that this has to be big and bold, and we have to agree to making major changes. We can't step through this over years, but rather need to acknowledge it will take some amount of time, that this doesn't happen instantaneously, but that the model for succeeding, security assurance and political normalization and denuclearization, completely verifiably and irreversibly, for that to take place, we've got to make bold decisions, and I'm hopeful that Chairman Kim Jong-un is prepared to make that decision for his country, a big shift in his strategic understanding of his security.
The White House is deep in preparations for the historic summit between President Trump and Kim, scheduled to take place June 12 in Singapore in Sentosa. Some days before meeting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, U.S. President Trump said the unprecedented summit was all ready to go as he welcomed Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to the White House. President Trump and Prime Minister Abe were to hold a joint press conference at the White House at about 2 p.m. that day before heading to Canada for what promises to be a tense Group of 7 summit, clouded by the U.S. leaders' aggressive trade policies. But before tackling the thorny trade issue, President Trump expressed unbridled optimism about his June 12 tete-a-tete with Kim in Singapore.
They've been doing this. I think it's not a one-meeting deal. It would be wonderful if it were. They've been doing this for a long time. There's been a lot of enemies out there, a lot of dislike, a lot of hatred between countries. This will not be just a photo op. This will be, at a minimum, we'll start with perhaps a good relationship, and that's something that's very important toward the ultimate making of a deal. I think it's not a one-meeting deal. It'll be one.
President Trump also tried to quell concerns about his lack of diplomatic or foreign policy experience heading into the high-stakes talks. Take a listen.
What are you doing to prepare for this?
I think I'm very well prepared. I don't think I have to prepare very much. It's about attitude. It's about willingness to get things done. But I think I've been preparing for the summit for a long time, as has the other side. I think they've been preparing for a long time also. So this isn't a question of preparation. It's a question of whether or not people want it to happen, and we'll know that very quickly.
Now, later at a White House news conference, the president said he was considering the idea of signing a declaration which would officially end the Korean War.
Again, Mr. President, would you be willing to go so far as to normalize relations with North Korea? And what about the idea of signing some sort of an agreement on the 12th to end the war?
Well, it could be. We could sign an agreement. As you know, that would be a first step. It's what happens after the agreement that really is the big point. But yes, we could absolutely sign an agreement. We're looking at it. We're talking about it with them. We're talking about it with a lot of other people. But that could happen. But that's really the beginning. Sounds a little bit strange, but that's probably the easy part. The hard part remains after that.
President Trump even went so far as to say he would consider inviting Kim Jong-un to visit the United States if the June 12 summit in Singapore goes well.
Well, the answer is yes to the second part of your question, but certainly if it goes well. And I think it would be well received. I think he would look at it very favorably, so I think that could happen. All I can say is I am totally prepared to walk away. I did it once before. You have to be able to walk away. If you're not going to be able to walk away, We didn't walk away from the horrible Iran deal that was signed. And if you look at what's happened.
Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe clearly outlined what would need to happen for the summit to be a success. Tangible progress on curbing the North's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, as well as answers about the Japanese nationals kidnapped by Pyongyang in the 1970s and 80s. And here's what he said at the conference with President Trump.
There is a beautiful port town, Niigata, facing the Sea of Japan. A mere 13-year-old girl living there was abducted by North Korea. 45 years have passed since then, during which time family members single-mindedly prayed for her return and kept on waiting. The parents became old. Remaining time is slipping away. It is the long-held desire of the Japanese people to have her and all of the abductees come home so that the parents, while they are healthy, can embrace the girl and other abductees again in their arms. Of course, I wish to directly face North Korea and talk with them so that abduction problem be resolved quickly. To this end, I am determined to take all possible means. On behalf of the citizens of Japan, I would like to thank President Trump and the people of the United States for their understanding and support toward the resolution of the abduction issue.
Now, in the past, President Trump has called Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man and vowed to unleash fire and fury on North Korea. Now, the rhetoric has changed, and the U.S. president has agreed to meet for talks in Singapore on June 12. Let's take a look back.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. But if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
And we can't have madmen out there shooting rockets all over the place. Kim Jong-un he really has been very open and I think very honorable from everything we're seeing. I've decided to terminate the planned summit in Singapore on June 12th. We'll be meeting on June 12th in Singapore. It went very well. It's really a get-to-know-you kind of a situation.
Meanwhile, South Koreans gave their views on President Trump ahead of the scheduled summit between the U.S. president and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Let's take a listen.
트럼프는 정치인 출신의 대통령이 아니기 때문에 자기가 생각하는 대로 끌고 나갈 수 있는 유일한 미국의 대통령이라고 생각함으로써 북미 대화를 이끌어 나갈 수 있는 가장 적합한 대통령이 트럼프 대통령이고,
북미 회담을 하는 걸 보니까 너무 장사꾼처럼 말을 바꾸고 이러니까 문제가 있다고 생각합니다. 사학과 출신이라서 이유만 추구하니까 믿음이 덜 갑니다.
여태까지 미국 대통령들이 못하던 걸 하고 있으니까 뭔가 진짜 보여주길 바라죠.
Meanwhile, from El Trompo and Rocket Man tacos to the bromance cocktail restaurants and bars in food crazy Singapore are rolling out weird and wonderful creations to mark the approaching U.S.-North Korean summit. The affluent city-state prides itself on its buzzing or bustling culinary scene, and every type of outlet imaginable is jumping on the bandwagon ahead of Tuesday's meeting between U.S. President Trump and North's Kim Jong-un. At a Mexican restaurant, Lucha Loco, customers can get stuck into an El Trompo, a westernized version of a taco that includes a beef patty and pickles. It's complemented by the Rocket Man, a taco stuffed with Korean fried chicken and pickled radish, a nod to the derogatory term that Trump has used to refer to Kim. The U.S. leader famously loves burgers, and several restaurants have come up with fusion versions of the classic American fast food. These typically feature a beef patty topped with kimchi, a Korean staple of spicy and pickled cabbage. Italian fine dining restaurant Sinfonia, where dinners start at $100 US dollars a head, has focused more on the refined tastes of luxury-loving Kim. The eatery's special summit menu, RBW, which stands for red, blue, and white, and refers to the colors of both the US and North Korean flags, features high-quality Japanese beef and caviar, both reportedly favorites of Kim. Even local favorite nasi lemak, a chili-infused rice dish, traditionally eaten at breakfast, is getting a summit makeover, with one restaurant coming up with a version that features kimchi.
Well, Trump loves his beef burgers with fries, and so we came up with this spin with our cowboy kimchi burger using US Black Angus beef with Korean kimchi. And it's actually served on top of our homemade Singapore homemade bun. Hopefully this summit will be a success and bringing harmony, peace and harmony to the world.
And for Kim is quite new, because all this information, of course, can take from internet. But is a very big fan about the Kobe or Wagyu beef, and is a really crazy fan about the caviar. I can combine together this ingredient. It's very typical Japanese plate, yeah, because put the Wagyu with the caviar, but I additional a little bit one Italian touch, put the blue cheese is one sauce to put on top.
Okay, to celebrate the Trump-Kim summit, we've come up with our own summit, which is a taco summit. So we have two very special tacos on offer this week and for next week. And it's basically an American-inspired cheeseburger taco and a Korean fried chicken taco.
Eagle News International will be right back.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami ko ospital na napuntahan, pero wala ring nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily,
Bautista, revealed the existence of sleeper cells in the country. He said, however, that the military was working double time to contain this problem.
Meron sa area ng Antipolo, no? Meron kaming nabalitaan na meron na rin sa Tarlac, Pangasinan. Pag sinabing inactivate to, binigyan to ng mission, may probability na gumawa to ng sabotage o gulo, atrocity sa isang area na hindi naman identified na terrorist area.
He also revealed that some members of these sleeper cells are former members of the government forces.
Merong awol na pulis from Antipolo kasama doon sa sa most affected area, doon sa battleground mismo, at namomonitor namin yan. Na-decode namin yung yung pangalan niya, na-trace namin na isa siyang parang awol na pulis, na namin yung ginamit niyang pangalan is yung lugar kung saan siya naka-assign.
The intelligence was uncovered during ongoing army operations on the restive southern island of Mindanao, where the city of Marawi was besieged 1 year ago by local and foreign fighters with links to ISIS. In other news, President Xi Jinping hailed China's ties with Russia as he treated Vladimir Putin to a state visit to bring the neighboring giants closer in the face of U.S. diplomatic and economic challenges. President Putin, re-elected to his fourth Kremlin term in March, arrived at the grandiose Great Hall of the People in Beijing for talks with President Xi, who could stay in power for life after term limits were lifted this year. The most powerful Russian and Chinese leaders in decades, Xi and Putin have forged closer ties as U.S. President Trump has labeled both countries as economic rivals that challenge U.S. interests and values. No matter what fluctuations there are in the international situation, China and Russia have always firmly taken the development of relations as a priority, President Xi told President Putin. Putin later said the two heads of state had enjoyed fruitful talks. He said, quote, "The relationship between Russia and China is a friendly, neighborly one, developing in states in the spirits of overarching strategic partnership." After the Beijing visit, Putin will join Xi at a weekend summit at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in the eastern Chinese city of Qingdao. And the lava flows from the Kilauea volcano into an ocean bay has created some new land. Take a look. The neighborhood of Vacation Land has been entirely engulfed and covered by molten rock and has now spread into the nearby bay. The new land is at least 0.8 miles from the original shoreline. Only a few buildings remain at the Kapoho Bay. People who have private property in the affected areas will still own their land, though it will need to be reassessed once the lava stops flowing. Scientists said there's no way of knowing when the eruption will end. Meanwhile, a 5.6 magnitude earthquake recently struck the summit of the volcano, sending more ash and rock thousands of feet into the sky. Meanwhile, in Guatemala, in San Miguel Los Lotes, relatives made their last-ditch efforts to rescue their loved ones after Sunday's Fuego volcano eruption wiped out entire villages and killed dozens. The threat of fresh landslides forced emergency workers to suspend the search for victims of a major eruption of Guatemala's Fuego volcano. This is according to the country's disaster management agency. Still hot volcanic material and the threat of heavy rains displacing loose deposits were posing a serious risk to the safety of emergency workers. To date, 109 people are known to have died in Sunday's major eruption of the volcano, with nearly 200 more still reported as missing.
La mayoría de mi familia, mis padres, mis 4 hermanas, mi tía y 6 primos. Todos vivíamos en el mismo terreno, casas separadas, pero en el mismo terreno.
In El Rodeo, home to 8,500 people, a kilometer away, locals say they are still spooked by the rumblings of the volcano as well as the threat of looters. Older neighbors say the volcano doesn't scare them. They have grown accustomed to its grumblings over the years, though they recognize Sunday's eruption was unprecedented. France is the latest country attempting to fight the scourge of fake news with legislation, but opponents say the law won't work and could even be used to silence critics. The draft law, designed to stop what the government calls manipulation of information in the run-up to elections, is one that representatives of the French judiciary consider neither necessary nor urgent, while Reporters Without Borders estimates that it will be impossible for judges to verify information flagged as fake within 48 hours.
Non, il n'est pas urgent ni nécessaire de légiférer parce qu'il y a déjà un certain nombre de textes qui existent. Il y a le code électoral qui a un certain nombre de dispositions qui répriment le fait de diffuser des fausses nouvelles dans le but de troubler finalement le suffrage. Il y a la loi presse qui prévoit des infractions comme la diffamation, qui protège des intérêts particuliers quand il est porté atteinte à l'honneur d'une personne, par exemple, et puis qui prévoit aussi une infraction quand de fausses nouvelles sont divulguées qui peuvent porter atteinte finalement aux intérêts de l'État.
On demande en fait au juge de prendre une décision et de rendre une décision en 48 heures. C'est beaucoup trop rapide et on ne sait pas en fait si cela permettra au juge d'agir, parce que à partir du moment où il va devoir définir si un contenu est vérifiable dans un délai si court, ça sera quasiment impossible.
Je considère que ça veut dire qu'il y a une montée de la tension réciproque.
The idea for the bill came straight from President Emmanuel Macron, who was himself targeted during his 2017 campaign by online rumors that he was gay and had a secret bank account in the Bahamas. Under the law, French authorities would be able to immediately halt the publication of information deemed to be false ahead of elections. Social networks would have to introduce measures allowing users to flag up false reports, pass their data on such articles to authorities, and make public their efforts against fake news. Celebrity chef and food critic Anthony Bourdain has committed suicide, according to the television network CNN, for which he took viewers around the world for the Parts Unknown series. He was 61. Bourdain was in France working on an upcoming episode of his award-winning CNN series. His close friend Eric Rippert, the French chef, found Bourdain unresponsive in his hotel room Friday morning. He hosted a cook's tour on the Food Network, then moved to Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations on the Travel Channel. No Reservations was a breakout hit, earning 2 Emmy Awards and more than a dozen nominations. On the network, anchors struggled to hold back tears as they recalled their late colleague in heartfelt recollections and urged people faced with despair or who know people who are struggling with depression to call a suicide hotline. Bourdain's death happened after fashion designer Kate Spade hanged herself in an apparent suicide at her Manhattan apartment on Tuesday. Spade was found hanged by a scarf she allegedly tied to a doorknob. Suicide is a growing problem in the U.S. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published a survey Thursday showing suicide rates increased by 25% across the United States over nearly 2 decades, ending in 2016. 25 states experienced a rise in suicides by more than 30%, according to the government report. All right, on a lighter note, our EBC correspondent in Japan, Tyra Liu, takes us to a restaurant where they make Osaka-style okonomiyaki. Tyra?
Famished one lunchtime, we found this small, pleasant restaurant near the main train station in Hachioji City in the western part of Tokyo. In its aim to bring the taste of Osaka here at the western part of Tokyo in Hachioji City, This restaurant serves Osaka-style okonomiyaki. If you like Japan, pizza, and pancake, or the combination of all, this is what you get. Okonomiyaki. This is because, but unlike the Western type, okonomiyaki contains a variety of ingredients, mostly vegetables. Okonomiyaki is a combination of two words, okonomi, which means how or what you like, and yaki, which means grilled. This dish is more popular in Osaka and in the other regions of Kansai and Hiroshima. In fact, this is known as Osaka soul food. But these days, this dish is already available all over the country. Toppings and batters vary according to region, but generally, ingredients consist of flour, grated nagaimo, it's a kind of yam, eggs, water or soup stock known as dashi, and shredded cabbage. Other ingredients may also include octopus, shrimp, squid, green onion, pork, vegetables, konjac, mochi or the Japanese rice cake, or cheese. Here comes our order! Aside from okonomiyaki, we were also served a bowl of miso soup and of course, huge platter of yakiniku with lots of vegetables underneath. The restaurant has an open kitchen where cooks prepare the food for the patrons to see, so there is no doubt about cleanliness here. Above us, we can see framed autographs of famous celebrities and baseball players who have visited the place. But never in my wildest dream will they let me sign one too. Osaka Okonomiyaki here in Hachioji City, Tokyo. I am Karina Buyulu, your ABC correspondent from Japan, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Tyra. We'll take a short break. The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be back.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical
Welcome back. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and French President Emmanuel Macron warned President Trump that they would not be intimidated at the G7 summit, especially in the face of U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from Canada, Europe, Japan, and Mexico. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also called President Trump's national security justification for new metal tariffs on U.S. allies laughable, while French President Macron says an agreement could be reached without the U.S. if need be. Take a listen.
On voit qu'il y a énormément de pression à l'intérieur des États-Unis de peut-être réviser ce propos risible que le Canada, la France, les pays de l'OTAN pourraient représenter une menace à la sécurité nationale des États-Unis quand en réalité, nous sommes les meilleurs alliés, les meilleurs amis que les États-Unis ont depuis longtemps.
L'hégémonie, c'est la loi du plus fort. L'hégémonie, c'est la fin de la règle de droit. L'hégémonie, c'est la fin des garanties qu'on peut donner à nos concitoyens, qu'on les protège selon des valeurs que nous avons défendues et fait passer dans ces textes. Et donc, peut-être que ça est égal au président américain aujourd'hui d'être isolé, mais nous, ça nous est aussi égal d'être à 6, si besoin était. Merci à vous.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Charity Oxfam held a press stunt to highlight the double burden women face, juggling a career and home life. Ahead of the G7 in Quebec City, the summit plans to highlight women's issues. Take a look.
And so we wanted to send a strong message to the G7 leaders that one neglected area has been unpaid care work. Women spend hours and hours, actually 2 to 10 times more time than men on unpaid care work. So that's caring for the children, caring for elderly, sick, cooking, cleaning, and so on. Here in Canada, that means that women have to work 14 years longer to earn the same amount of earnings than men do over the lifetime. Well, I think it was really bold and ambitious of the Prime Minister to appoint the Gender Equality Advisory Council. These are powerful women from across the world who are not just going to walk away and say, oh, well, it's over now. They will push over the next years for progress on these issues, and their first recommendation is to make the council permanent.
All right, meanwhile, before we go to our next news, would like to update this news segment from President Trump. He held a news conference before going to the G7 summit. President Trump said Russia should be readmitted to the G7 despite the country being kicked out of the international cooperative over its annexation of the Crimean Peninsula. Russia was removed from the group back in 2014, to recall, after the annexation of the Ukrainian territory of Crimea, or Russian territory of Crimea. The rest of the group's members and the West universally condemned the move, hitting Russia with rounds of punishing sanctions. Now, Trump said that while he has been Russia's worst nightmare, the country should be invited to the international summit to be at the negotiating table. Now, Italy's new Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte, agreed with Trump's call. Conte said in a tweet that the move would be in everyone's interest. But Russia appeared to turn down Trump's suggestion. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia is focused on other formats apart from the G7. Now, Trump is heading to a hostile G7 meeting as the other members of the group, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, are set to take the president to task over the president's new steel and aluminum tariffs. Now, next, Washington and Beijing have reached a deal to ease sanctions that brought Chinese smartphone maker ZTE to the brink of collapse. The U.S. said Thursday, a possible indication of progress in fraught trade talks between the world's two largest economies. U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who announced the deal, reiterated a denial that there was any connection between the two. The diffusing of tensions with Beijing is good news for Trump, who is preparing to face outraged allies at this week's Group of Seven summit in Canada, where Europe and Canada will voice their strenuous objection to U.S. steel and metal tariffs. Now, not all was rosy. U.S. lawmakers threatened legal action against the ZTE deal. They said the telecoms firm posed an espionage risk to the United States, in addition to having violated its sanctions on Iran and North Korea. Now, Ross told CNBC on Thursday the deal was tough and would keep ZTE on a short leash. In April, Washington banned the sale of crucial U.S. components to the company after finding it had repeatedly lied and failed to take action against workers responsible for the sanctions violations. The company was fined $1.2 billion last year, but under the deal announced Thursday, ZTE will pay an additional $1 billion penalty and put another $400 million in escrow to cover possible future violations. ZTE will also be required to change its entire board of directors and hire outside legal compliance specialists who will report to the Commerce Department for 10 years. In return, Washington will strike the company from a sanctions list. In other news, grandmother Clara Maitse, 77, has been arrested 7 times over the past decade for illegally mining precious stones in Kimberley, South Africa's diamond hub. Her defiant patience has paid off, and small-scale mining, an industry that employs many thousands of people, has now been decriminalized for the first time under a permit system. Watch this.
77-year-old Clara Maitse was a Zama Zama, the South African word for an illegal diamond miner, until the government's recent landmark decision to begin decriminalizing the practice. The country was built on mines, both legal and illegal, and although a legal permit has made her life easier, Clara was never scared of being a Zama Zama.
Yeah. No, why would I be afraid? The land belongs to us black people. I can't be scared. We already voted for Mandela.
Clara, a former domestic worker, was arrested 7 times in the past decade for daring to do the back-breaking task of solo mining while bringing up 11 children and several grandchildren. She is one of 800 miners based outside Kimberley in South Africa's Northern Cape province who have been given permits to mine a 500-hectare piece of land owned by a formal mining outfit.
Yes, I think it's been a long time coming. I think it's something that we always envisaged could and should happen in the longer run.
Deputy Mining Minister Godfrey Willifant has made legalizing small-scale miners like Clara his pet project, believing it will help fight mining crime and exploitation.
When we gave them license, you could see the sparkle in their eyes. When we give them license to trade and deal with diamonds, you could see that you brought about a difference, positive difference in the lives of people. So that's why we're excited.
Elisa Lowe, a 47-year-old mother of 5 who joined the Zama Zamas in 2013 after her divorce, is another community member benefiting from decriminalization. Before the law changed, she mobilized her fellow illegal miners and lobbied the regional government for recognition.
Yes, to have the permits is a miracle in our lives. It is a happiness for us all. The permits have opened doors that have been closed to us and built up our self-confidence.
Zama Zama means to take a chance, and for years that's exactly what these small-scale miners have done. Tough living conditions and frequent violent clashes between miners and security forces have made life grindingly harsh. But these miners are hopeful that they'll no longer have to risk their lives to put food on the table.
All right, according to scientists, a NASA robot has detected more building blocks for life on Mars, the most complex organic matter yet, from rocks on the surface of the red planet. The unmanned Curiosity rover has also found increasing evidence for seasonal variations of methane on Mars, indicating the source of the gas is likely the planet itself or possibly its substance water. or subsurface water. While not direct evidence of life, the compounds drilled from Mars' Gale crater are the most diverse array ever taken from the surface of the planet since the robotic vehicle landed in 2012, according to experts. The compounds might have come from a meteorite or from geological formations akin to coal and black shale on Earth, or some form of life, according to scientists. Their precise source is still a mystery. The samples were drilled from the base of Mount Sharp inside a basin called Gale Crater that is believed to have held an ancient Marshall Lake. A flying car project backed by Google co-founder Larry Page is closer to takeoff, with a model for aspiring buyers to try out. Take a look. In other tech news, clapping robots, or the Big Clappy, are delighting visitors at the Tokyo Toy Show by telling jokes, singing, and clapping their hands. Take a look.
拍手ロボットビッグクラッピーといいまして、拍手と劇な発話で人を集客して、場を盛り上げるロボットです。一番苦労したことはやっぱり拍手音、人間の温かみのあるやっぱ拍手音に本当にずっとこだわりましたので、この拍手にやっぱり一番苦労しました。
Eagle News International will be right back.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami ko ospital na napuntahan, pero wala ring nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily, I got cured. So I sincerely want to thank the doctors of Manila-Beijing Medical Associated.
For the past 30 years, ang dami ko nang na-take na mga gamot. Nothing happened to me. So until one my friend introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, you know what? All my illness was cured.
For any health problems or incurable diseases, you can visit Manila Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated, located at 843B Sabino Padilla Street, Binondo, Manila.
MTRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG. Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCV, rated responsable.
Welcome back. India is suffering from drought, heat, and water shortages. A fact sheet by Climate Trends revealed that water levels in India's major reservoirs are 10% lower than normal, whereas these are 50% deficient in Himachal Pradesh. Now, when the water truck finally chugged into this Delhi slum, there was a stampede. It's a scene repeated daily across India as temperatures rise and the vital resource gets even scarcer. Young men clambered onto the roof and jammed a tangle of multicolored hose pipes inside, passing the other ends to friends waiting with containers in the shouting crowd below. Now, all 10,000 liters were gone in minutes, lugged away in jerry cans, buckets, dangling on bike handlebars. As the lorry left, people ran after it, desperate for any last drops.
टैंकर तो वहीं देख लेंगे कोने पर, तो पब्लिक टूट पड़ता है एक दूसरे के मरने के लिए। कोई नहीं देखते हैं कि हम अपने खाली सोचते हैं और कोई अपने बारे में सोचते हैं, सब दूसरे के बारे में कोई नहीं सोचते हैं। हमारे भर जाए और कोई के भरे चाहे मत भरे, कोई देह पर चढ़ जाए चाहे कोई के पैर काटे हाथ काटे, कोई मतलब नहीं है, अपने अपने के सब।
Now, experts blame the shortages not just on the changing climate, but also on inadequate planning, especially in India's fast-growing cities, whose aged infrastructure cannot cope. Experts also say that water-intensive farming, especially for rice and sugarcane, to feed India's growing population, has depleted and polluted the underground water table. Studies by the United Nations and other groups have warned that the country's water crisis will worsen unless action is taken. U.S. and Danish researchers said Thursday they have developed an inexpensive blood test that may predict with up to 80% accuracy whether a pregnant woman will give birth prematurely. Now, while more research is needed before the test is ready for widespread use, experts say it has the potential to reduce fatalities and complications from 15 million premature births per year worldwide. The test can also be used to estimate the mother's due date as reliably as and less expensively than ultrasound, according to the report in the journal Science. The test measures the activity of maternal, placental, and fetal genes, assessing levels of cell-free RNA, which are messenger molecules that carry the body's genetic instructions. Defined as a baby arriving at least 3 weeks early, premature birth affects 9% of U.S. births and is the top cause of death before age 5 among children worldwide. Shoop, 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 shoop. The 2018 FIBA World Cup Championship kicked off at the Philippine Arena. We have an update from Ben Bernaldez. Ben?
Serbia and Russia will defend its men's and women's title. The Philippines, as the host country, automatically qualifies in the tournament. The FIBA 3x3 World Cup 2018 features 20 men's and 20 women's teams. They are divided into 4 pools of 5 and seeded automatically based on the 3x3 Federation ranking. Each team plays the other 4 in their respective pools. The top 2 teams from each pool qualify for the quarterfinals and then play knockout games all the way to the final. With the exception of the bronze medal game, there will be no classification games. Overall standing places 5 to 20 and pool standings are determined by the standing rules. If teams are still tied, the ones with the high seeding wins the tiebreaker. On top of the men's and women's team event, there are 3 individual contests like the dunk contest, shootout contest, and skills contest. The Philippines women's national team saw action for the first time despite losing to the taller teams of the Netherlands and Germany. Jack Daniel Animam, Afril Bernardino, Gemma Miranda, and Jenny Pontejos showed heart and grit on the court. Coach Mark Solano, SBP Director for 3x3 and coach of the women's national team, thanks the Filipino fans as well as the management of the Philippine Arena for hosting the 3x3 World Cup Championships.
Magandang hapon. And first of all, congratulations for successfully bringing the FIBA 3x3 World Cup here sa ating bansa. It's being hosted in the world's largest indoor arena, Philippine Arena. First of all, pag-usapan po natin yung preparation ninyo with this event now, also the forming the team, and yung preparation naman ng mga players natin.
Actually, malaking bagay. Una salamat for having us dito sa Philippine Arena. Nagpapasalamat kami for the LGUs ng Bukawi, Santa Maria, yung mga nakakasakop dito sa Philippine Arena. At sa lahat ng Pilipino na sumusuporta. Una, yung pag-form ng team, it's a very big part si Coach Pat Aquino. Sabi ko nga, siguro without him, mahihirapan din ako eh. Kasi he knows these female players more than I do. Kilala ko sila pero siya talaga yung coach nila from National University, from Perlas, Pilipinas. Kaya nga, nung binubuo yung squad, sinabi ko sa mga boss, I need Coach Pat. Maka-work kami dalawa. So, we prepared the team very well. We selected the players according to our needs. For 3x3 game talaga. Sinabi ko sa'yo before, hindi porke magaling sa 5-on-5, pwede mag 3x3. So, itong 4 na to, tailor fit talaga sila for 3x3. And in preparation, kanina medyo nabigla kami, di ba? Nabigla yung mga bata sa Netherlands. Defending champion yun eh. But sabi nga namin ni Coach Matt sa kanila, kung tsinagataga natin, kaya naman eh. Kaya naman. So, sabi ko, lahat ng pinractice natin, lahat ng ginawa natin, regimen, lahat ng disiplina natin, ibigay na natin lahat. Especially right now, we're playing sa crowd, the largest indoor gym sa buong mundo. So kaya talagang excited din kami, excited yung mga bata.
Yung mga players natin, they have cheaters for some to play in this kind of crowd. Of course, with this team, yung mga kalaban nila, medyo matatangkas. Pero katingin ng mga manonood, ako mismo, I think we have a chance to compete with international teams such as Netherlands and other teams also.
Right, we have actually, ito namang 4 players natin, sanay gumera to sa international, playing for Perlas. Pero siguro ako, may factor yung you're playing on your own turf, tapos yung pressure din siguro na lahat ng Pilipino nakapigit sa amin. Sa ibang bansa, pag naglaro tayo, sige, bahala kayo dyan. So, it can add up, pero kaya sabi natin sa kanila, let's just have fun, and we give back to those Filipino-loving basketball fans kung ano yung kaya natin gawin.
Our men's team, what do you think of, ano po masasabi niyo sa ating selection ng ating men's team for this World Championship?
Yung men's team, malakas din yun. No? Yung pagpili nila Coach Ronnie Magsanok siya, malakas din. Sabi mo, Christian Stan Hardinger, no? They will give each team a run for their money, no? Lahat dun sa pool nila.
So, laman po ng ating rules when it comes to 3x3 para maintindihan po na lang mga nanonood. What's the difference between 505 and 3x3 rules? And naglalaro tayo tatluan How we apply the rules sa 505. Pero when the formal FIBA 3x3 World Cup, ano po yung rules natin?
Una, ang difference sa rules, walang individual team pa. Walang individual foul. So walang, tawag namin dito, only foul. No, walang foul out. Katulad nung kanina, naging problem natin when we played against Netherlands. Ang pinag-uusapan dito, team fouls. If you reach 16 fouls, 1 free throw na agad yan. Knock-off shooting na knock-off shooting. You reach 7, 8, 9 team fouls, 2 free throws na yan. Knock-off shooting na knock-off shooting. Ang mabigat, when you reach 10 team fouls and beyond, 2 free throws plus ball possession. So yun yung mabigat dito. Tapos 12 second shot clock, raise to 21 points, or if you're leading after 10 minutes, whichever goes first, you win the game.
At yan muna ang kaganapan dito sa Philippine Arena para sa FIBA 3x3 World Cup Championship. Ako si Ben Bernaldez, and I am 1 with 25.
All right, we'll be following this developing sports story in the coming days. Thank you, Ben. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, always 1 with 25. Good night.
Susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.